Who influenced you?
I mean, for me, I mean, we had a variety of guys. We watched a lot of Japan stuff early
Mhm.
90s, you know. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time was I have a top three. Big three. For me was Jushin Thunder Liger. Big, huge mark. Like if I saw him today, I'll probably hug him. I loved Hayabusa and Owen Hart, believe it or not.
Oh,
I
that's awesome,
loved
man.
Owen, bro. In Japan days, he was the man. And my
I was
brother
gonna.
was Dick Togo, Shawn Michaels, and Eddie Guerrero. He was a huge fan. Back then, when we were coming up, it was if you got to Japan, you did it. That's it. That was the gig. You if as a wrestler here independently, if you got to Japan, that's it. That's the big stage for most guys. That was the accomplishment over anything else. I mean, a lot of guys obviously want to get signed to WWE and whatever else, but for us specifically was doing tours out there, and we got to live it out, man. It was freaking awesome. We used to acquire tape somehow. I had a friend, Chris Devine, huge mark of Japanese wrestling. He was the guy who actually got us really to start wrestling. Yeah, got us into wrestling when we were younger. I mean, we all grew up together. Chris Devine, Brian Excel, Red's our cousin, so we grew up in the same
Hmm.
households. And Joel, I've known them since we were like 8 years old. 7 years old, Chris Devine and Quiet Storm. We met him for the first time when he was 14. I was 15, 14. Yeah, we were about the same age actually. And that was in the wrestling ring in Brooklyn in an abandoned freaking church. And
Wow.
all we ever did was look at Japanese tapes, Mexican tapes. And for a year there, before we started training with Mikey, we were trained by Super Aguila from Mexico. He was there from at the time from AAA or CMLL, and he was training us how to do lucha. So all we knew in the beginning was just lucha libre. We didn't even know how to do American style wrestling yet. You know, it was
Mhm.
it was weird. It was a weird transition because that's we started to do lucha, and then eventually that's when we started to train with Mikey at the House of Hardcore HWA at the time. Mikey Whipwreck. That's when he took us on his tutelage, and he taught us how to
You can put my
actually
name
wrestle,
now.
how to run, how to use footing, cut the ring off, all the basics and all the great things that we do now that we learned because we were just like lucha, 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 lucha. And he was like, "Oh, slow down, relax, learn how to
Wow.
wrestle first, because you can mix it up." I mean, for me personally, Japanese wrestling, and you guys know Kenta Kobashi.
Right.
I'm a freaking mark of him. It was
Mhm.
it was all Japan days, New Japan days, Pro Wrestling Noah, you name it. Like we watched it all from what was it? Michinoku Pro. We're talking
Yeah,
Michinoku. Great Sasaki.
Big Togo.
Joel used to love Dick Togo. That's his idol, his hero. That
Yeah,
broke he broke his
yeah.
ankle at the Manhattan Center with the Spanish
That's
fly.
another story. That's
That's a
another
whole different
story.
Ah,
story. But that's one of those things. We were
wow.
marks of all kinds of wrestling, bro. So I mean, we still students of the art. We love to watch and learn and see how the guys. But the thing that we're sticklers for is not to do what they did. Just do our own shit, make up our own moves, make up our own things, leave a stamp. That's what we were aiming, and look, it's turning out to be all right.
Yeah. And then
Well, Mike,
you.
the Mike Awesome thing. I don't know how that rumor. Mike Awesome was a
Oh,
great friend. Mike
yes.
Awesome was fantastic. We shared
Yeah.
locker rooms with him up and down the East Coast, but we never trained with Mike Awesome ever.
Oh
I mean,
wow.
we've gotten beat up by Chris Chetty and
Yeah.
Taz and Mikey Whipwreck beat the shit out of us, but that's it. We never actually
Now,
not even Taz. It's just Chris Chetty and Mikey Whipwreck.
Well,
Well, Chris
at
Chetty
the
just used to
ECW
come
show
by and whoop our ass every now and then,
and
but
Roadkill
and
and Tommy
Roadkill, which just
Dreamer.
passed by, we were terrified. But other than that, it was Mikey Whipwreck. It was our only and sole trainer besides Super Aguila that we trained with for a year.
I think, and if anybody else goes through the training we went through, they'll quit wrestling. I'm not even kidding. I guess, since we were the last guys there at the ECW House of Hardcore, I guess they had a thing, to see if they could break us. Almost did a couple of times. A couple of times we stood in front of the building, and me and my brothers would be talking like, "Damn, should we go in? Should we even go in there today?" And they'll just make an example. Like, for example, one time, Chris Chetty, I love you, bro, but it has to be. We were training. Chris Chetty came in and he was mad at something. Something wasn't going to happen at the ECW pay per view that Friday, and he slammed his phone against the wall. You remember that, Jose?
Yeah.
And then he started whipping you off and clotheslining you. Remember?
Yep.
So my brother's lips just started gushing blood. Then I'm in the corner holding on really tight. I'm a student, and these guys are superstars, and I can't say shit because I'm next. But I held that, man. I held that in, like, oh man, one day we're gonna get in the ring. I'm gonna pay you back for what you did to my brother. And we got to wrestle him plenty of times, and he kicked our ass anyways. But
Yeah.
but it was hard. It was hard. They used to make us build the ring, build the ring, put it in the truck for the ECW shows, then take the shitty ring, put it back, and then go home, not even train. Then come back the next day, We'll do like how long we'll do that? An hour and a half of squats and climbing chairs.
Yeah,
Like
Mikey had a specific program. It would break
it,
you.
it was like 3 hours before we even hit the ring, and
I
we were
think
outside.
we didn't touch the ring for 3 months. Like
Yeah,
legit.
yeah.
Training with him was the probably the best wrestling experience of my life. He's the man. Mikey Whipwreck, I'm telling you, he's the GOAT. He's the man. In my eyes, he's one of the best wrestlers of all time. One of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. I think he
Well,
should go on every Hall of Fame and be praised. You know what I mean? He's the man.
if you look at TV from anywhere from AEW to NXT, you see all of Mikey's students. All of Mikey's students. Zack Ryder, us, Red, the whole half of the whole what are they called the scary guys from AEW?
Oh, the Dark Order.
Yeah,
Dark Order.
half of them are Mikey's students.
Yeah, right.
John
That's right.
John Silver, Alex Reynolds, the list goes on, bro. The what's their names? The ones that rap.
Oh,
Caster.
the Acclaim, Max Caster, and Anthony
Bowens.
Bowens.
Yeah, I also came out of that same line of Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, which are Mikey students, so it's just spread out. Mikey Weirback students are all over wrestling.
We were the first
Like,
five.
We're the first.
First,
We're the
bro,
first
there was
students.
like 16 students that went to his school, and it's us 6 lasted at the end. It was Chris Devine, me,
Quiet
Red,
Storm.
Quiet Storm, and
Me.
Brian Excel and Joel.
That's it.
That's it. Oh, and Shane.
Yeah, Wayne. Shane,
But-
he's the owner of NYWC.
That's it. Everyone else started to drop, and that's it.
Well,
We were the
I
last.
wanted to be one of those. I wanted to drop a couple of times, bro. I was always the heaviest, so he'll pick on me the most. Like, heavy, come here, heavy, come here. I was fucking being fat, man. Well, before my brother, Mike Berner. You ever heard of him? Mike
Yeah.
Berner?
We had
Yeah.
him on the show actually a few years ago. Yep.
He's my student.
Okay.
He kept asking me and telling me, "Yo, come back, get your brother, get back." And then Gringo Loco started hitting me up, and he's like, "Bro, listen, GCW's on fire. You guys got to come back." As far as MLW, I think they're a great company. I had a lot of fun there. I want to go back. Nobody ever gave us title runs, Dave and Joe, because this is what promoters always said to the S.A.T. You guys are over. You don't need belts. But champions are what people talk about all the time, So this time around, we want to turn the tide, We're gonna collect every single damn strap that we could see.
100%.
At that time, we will speak like that, and then it'll be to the back burner. That's how it was. This time around, wrestling's changed, and now it's like people are really doing the research, and people are respecting the fact of that wrestling is a craft and is an art, and what we do is not easy at all. And fans and podcasts like your podcast is what drove us back. Like, I want to be a part of this generation. I created half of it. I want to be a part of it. I want me and my brothers to go out there and do what we could at this age. This is probably my last run. My younger brother is in it now. Will, he has years to go, and he's amazing in the ring. Wait until you guys see. It's funny because when he first broke in, Jose has stepped out, but they look alike. So Will when
Exactly alike. He's like a
Will
twin.
went with me to WWC Puerto Rico, Carlos Colon's company, and it was like 2009. And the owner came in, and he was like, "Oh, what's up, Jay? That's my son." And then the owner comes in. I mean, the booker, which is y'all know him, right? The Invader.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows him.
Oh,
So the Invader comes in, and he's like, "Oh, Joel and Jose, you guys take the titles to." I stood quiet. So me and Will went out there. We won the belts, and we come to the back. Everybody's celebrating, and we're like, "Cool." And then he's like, "That's not Jose," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's my brother. It's Will." But he's like, "You guys said it was Jose the whole entire time. I've been telling them." They flew him in as Will Maximo, Will Maximo, the whole thing. And then at the end of the show, he's like, "You're not Jose," and I'm like, "That's still my brother. It's Will." They look just alike, bro. It's crazy. It's funny.
And that's a scary guy to get mad in the locker room too. Like,
Yeah, no
Don't
shit.
go to the shower.
Oh wow!
we'll do all our business in front of people. But what was it like to wrestle in Puerto Rico? Because you've heard how wild the fans are.
Bro, the first time we did a tour, right? We did it It was WWC, same thing, right?
Yeah. No. It was
ICW,
IWA
for
when they were
Savio
big.
Vega. IWA
Yeah.
was huge.
Savio and
Victor Quinones.
Victor Quinones. Yeah.
So we were wrestling, but we were the heels because we're from New York. So they were like, just shit on the fans and blah blah blah. One night we were at an arena. It's freaking packed. They pack house every single night. It's ridiculous. Like 8,000, 10,000 people every single night. So we were at this arena and I'm standing and I'm healing the fans in Spanish, talking the shit, da 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 da. And I'm telling these people, come down, come and fight. If you man enough, come and fight. The guy starts coming. He must have been like 6'4", the biggest Puerto Rican I've ever seen. He's running down the bleachers full speed. So I'm like, all right, cool. I look at the security guard, like, get in front of him. Whoop! Security guard disappears.
Yeah.
He wants me to fight the guy. I run to the back. I'm like, dude, what's going on? The freaking fans are gonna come out. They're throwing battery acid at us.
Battery
beers. They're crazy out there. They believe it's not a work. It's real. It's crazy in Puerto Rico. That's what's awesome about wrestling there. Even the heels and babyface don't come out of the same curtain. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like you can't even share locker rooms. We used to have to split locker rooms.
Yeah.
So you better know your shit because
when
you get in the ring, that's the first time you see your guy.
Yeah, we were in Puerto Rico saying that we hated being Puerto Rican.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we left.
So they were calling us sellouts. They were
left.
calling us all types of fucking crazy names. It was crazy, man. I'm sorry.
It was a good time.
It was just insane. But that Puerto Rico was scary. It was scary. It was the whole thing. The whole thing was shady. It was crazy. It was like if you get out of line, they'll stab you.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. Japan has always been my favorite place to wrestle in. The whole thing. All those 9 years we spent out there was crazy. It was
Japan was amazing.
It was I believe it was their second show. We wrestled the His Squad and the Special K, and we made up the Tower of Doom thing. You remember that?
Yeah.
Powerbomb suplex. So I was calling that shit out in the back, and His Squad was like, wait. So we powerbomb everybody, and we're like, yeah, let's do that. Once we did it, Nakamura was in the audience, and he was like, who thought of that? Blah blah blah. We were talking us, and then he was like, I want you guys in Japan, man. 2000
and Steve Carino was the booker there too. So he was.
Yeah, Carino was the booker.
He was booking a lot of the guys too, which was good. And then we became friends with Tiger Hattori, the referee. That's my guy, bro. That's like he lived right by me. I used to go to dinner with that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's gotta be crazy to watch him on TV and then have him be the guy that's just hanging out with you,
bro. It was crazy. I went to dinner with him and my wife, and I brought my wife. I was like, I'm bringing my wife.
Remember that? I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
Is that why when they opened the fish scales and you didn't want to eat?
I didn't want to eat. I can't, bro. I'm malnutrition. I'm sorry, man. They eat some weird, right? So, but I'm cool with it. It's cool now. I'm a grown man. I was really young back then, anyway. And my wife is drinking wine, and she's just hanging out, kicking it. She don't realize Japanese custom. If you drink, they'll keep pouring. They'll keep pouring. They'll keep pouring. Your cup's never empty. It's crazy. Your cup is never empty. You drink and then boom. You drink and boom. There you go. They'll just sit there. And she's like, why is it not going down? And she's already. I was like, stop drinking. That's all you gotta do.
Japanese drink way more than Mexicans. And I used to think Mexican men, because we went out to drinking with Ricky Marvin and Juventud in Tokyo. And they could drink. They got really drunk, but
they cannot drink Ricky Choshu.
They're Japanese. Yeah, Ricky Choshu took. Man, we skipping all over the place. I'm sorry.
That's right.
So from 01, we went to World Japan. So we signed a deal with them for a year. It was a great deal, and it was through Tiger Hattori. The owners were Takao Mori, Ricky Choshu, and Tendru. Right? They were the main owners of the company.
No, it wasn't Teru. It was this guy, Power Warrior. I forget his name again.
Kensuke
Sasaki.
Kensuke
Sasaki was the part owner with Ricky Choshu and Tenru. They had
we got that deal through Tiger Hattori. We were in TNA at the time. We were signed to TNA. It was like we'll bench for about 3 months. No lie, they had us in the sideline. They had nothing for us, and I saw that everybody else was going to Japan. Homicide, AJ Styles, Chris Harris, and what's his name, man? Cowboy James Storm. They all started going to Japan, So when this deal came to our table, we told my writer and them to see if they'll let us go for about a month, and they told us no, that they had plans. So we waited. Then the second time came around, and me and my brother were talking. And we're like, if we go, it's the end of TNA. That's exactly what happened. We looking at each other. The money was insane. I'm talking insane. I was like, damn, man. Like, I'm over here 22 years old. You know, I'm like,
Right.
what do I do? So we ended up leaving. We ended up leaving. Well, by the time the first week that we left, MLW got really pissed off because we canceled shows with them, and TNA got really mad. So they sent us our releases at home by the time we got home, and that was it for TNA. That was the case. We went to Japan over TNA. Well, we ended up going to Dragon's Gate next. We ended up doing Hustle. We ended up doing All Japan show, and then we went back to 01. So we did it. We did a lot in Japan.
I feel like I got to give more credit to Ring of Honor. I feel like Ring of Honor really put us out there, you know, which was up and coming. Which we did the first show. We actually told. I said this. I'm gonna keep saying it until they come to me. The first time Ring of Honor was even announced, we were on. They did a video of us, the art video. Remember, art video used to record and record.
Yeah.
So they used to do on the road with Super Crazy, on the road with Tajiri, on the road with whoever it was. So he wanted to do on the road with S.A.T. and do a little American tour, Puerto Rico, etc. So we did. We were like, all right, let's do it. Let's record the whole trip. Let's record on the way to the shows. They got it out. So during that trip, that's when we approached Ralph Feinstein. We're like, why don't you just start a promotion?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, dude, you know, every single wrestler, you're dealing with every single wrestler every single day, promoters, promotions, venues. Like,
ECW, the whole ECW.
Start a promotion. ECW is it's already collapsed at the time. I'm like, so why not start a promotion and see what happens? And sure enough, he was like, you know what, bro, we're starting a promotion. It's going to be called Ring of Honor. We're like, you know what, though? Don't do again, this is what we always did. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Make the canvas split like All Japan back in the days. Remember the red and blue?
Red and black.
That was our idea. That was our gig. And I said, and don't do turnbuckles. Do the straight turnbuckles like in Japan. No one's doing that in America right now, bro.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? That's what they went with. We pretty much started the whole shit, the whole idea with it. With Ralph Feinstein. I swear, bro, this is a real story. You can ask Red, Brian Excel. They were all there. Ask Taka Michinoku if you talk to him. It's legit. He was, good idea. Yeah, it's good stuff. and that's how Ring of Honor actually got birthed. And then we were on the first show because we knew about the first show. We knew who he was booking, he was talking to us about it for a while. And then Gabe came in, and then it was a little different story. You know what I mean? Then he kind of took over the bookings and whatever ideas he wanted to do at the time. Which they got mad at us.
You know, Ring of Honor.
It's crazy because we don't want to do what they're doing already. We want to do different things all the time. This is why Hog is doing well. Hog is doing fantastic because they're the same mentality as us. They're always trying to do different things. But this is, I mean, bro, Ring of Honor is, we love the promotion because it did a lot for a lot of guys.
I got a little upset at the fact that we've been talking to them for a while, and we wanted to get in there before this all happened. And now that they said it was gonna go down the drain, I mean, it brought a lot of memories to us. I mean, Scramble Cage, all those crazy scrambles tag team matches they put us in. That shit, it's still with us. I love running matches like that. I still do. Like, I beg promoters to book us like against 3 other tag teams. That's what I like. It. I like the chaos.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's pretty sick. I heard they're coming back though, right? Like
they have a show WrestleMania weekend.
Beat it out of the Briscoes next Saturday.
I mean, there's so much going on at AEW. You know what I mean? Like Vince signed everyone he can possibly sign at once. That's the plan, to try to get rid of the smaller companies, right?
Right.
And I feel like they felt that pressure because of the pandemic hit. They weren't able to run shows. I think Ring of Honor will roll back again as soon as everything opens back up, bro. It's legacy. Fans are loyal, and I believe that if they reopen and start doing it again, fans will flock right back.
I got a couple of favorites. Briscoe's off the top of my head. We had a match in MCW, Managed Championship Wrestling, for the Shane Shamrock Cup. Man, that match it's like 45 minutes of just action pack. I love wrestling them. They're like our brothers in wrestling. It's crazy with them. I also like wrestling Kaz Hayashi and Spanky in Hustle in Japan.
That was a good match.
Yeah, and Doi and Yoshino for Dragon's Gate.
That was a
Of
great
course,
match.
Eddie Guerrero and Red versus us. That was really
Your
good.
Dorian Yoshino match in Dragon's Gate is crazy because I just came off of a broken foot, and I was really out of shape. I wasn't like heavy or anything, but I was really out of shape as far as wind, and just it just felt like I couldn't run, bro. I tore my groin muscle the first
Oh.
night on tour in
Yeah,
Dragon
yeah.
Gate, and then we had 28 consecutive days nonstop, no
Oh.
rest, and I finished the tour limping the whole time, bro. It was the worst pain in the world. It was disgusting. We did the forearm, right? I did the forearm powerbomb thing to the outside, and I landed on my hip, and
And the chair. No, you landed on the chair
it
and
was
it slipped.
terrible. First day on tour,
Uh,
great
The best
match,
part. The
fantastic.
best.
That was
the
it for
best
me.
part- The best part is the referee. He's like, S.A.T. maybe too slow. And it's like, fuck you, man. He can't run. He can't even
run.
walk. Yeah, man.
Now,
It's
how do
crazy.
you do the rest of the tour when you know you have that kind of injury? Do you kind of
Me.
tailor your style to it, or do you
Him,
just?
he's crazy. This guy.
Me. I'll take everything. I'll add him to what he needs to do, and hopefully he doesn't get hurt.
I'll stay in
He
the
does the
middle.
same for me. He does the same for me. We did a pay per view for TNA. We're wrestling Unibrow Mass Striker. You guys remember him?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which that guy's no joke. He's nasty. And BJ Whitmer. And
Oh, wow.
we got in the ring in TNA. The bell rang, and the referee says, "Take it home." Right off the back. So we forced ourselves to do a Spanish fly to BJ Whitmer, and I blew my knee out. That night it was a double taping. So Jose did all the work again. We wrestled the Backstreet Boys after that, and I couldn't run. I couldn't move. My knee was swollen like completely underneath my knee pad. It sucked. Then this guy gives the Sandman my wheelchair to push.
In the airport.
That's not funny, bro.
Oh,
Sandman was high as ass, pushing me through the airport, slamming me against shit, bro. It was not
oh,
good.
Jesus.
I think we
And
were on the way
Jose-
to Detroit, right? From
Stop.
Tennessee, we were on the way to Detroit, and Sandman just happened to be on the flight. I was like, "Come here, come."
Oh,
can
they
you
have
push
for
him for me?
ICP.
Can
For
you push him
ICP.
for me? Like, oh yeah, brother. I was like, roll him down the. He's rolling. He's being Sandman in the airport. Let's go, brother. Full speed. And Joel's going. He's gonna do. He's gonna
I was
kill
scared.
me.
Yeah, I was scared for my life, Joe. I swear. I was.
can
I never been so scared. I never been so scared. I was like, I'm definitely gonna get surgery on this knee. This guy's gonna drop me, and he didn't. But it was scary.
It's crazy. In
Oh,
Ring of
that's
Honor, we
funny.
had a match against. I think it was Jay Lethal and Dragon. What's his name? Dragon. One of the Special K kids.
Oh, I'm trying
Insane
to
Dragon.
remember now.
Insane
Insane
Dragon.
Dragon.
Oh,
Insane
okay.
Dragon. Bro, I did a
What?
drop down. Out of all the shit that we do, I did a drop down. The canvas came in at the same time, smacked my hand.
Broken hand.
I broke my hand in like 6 spots. My
Ooh.
fingers literally turned different directions. Ooh, I grabbed my hand, I roll out of the ring, I take my wrist tape off and put it on my hand tight. So I
Yeah.
tell Joel as he's passing by, dude, I broke my hand. His exact words was stop being a pussy. I just broke my hand. Broke my
Yeah, I
hand.
do that. I
Excuse
do
my
that to him
French.
and Red. I do that to him
Like,
and Red
really,
all
bro?
the time.
I broke my hand. Like, I can't wrestle. He was like, nah, come on, just finish up. We
Finish.
finished the match.
We
The
finished.
next morning, we had 3 dates. So the next morning, we had another 2 shows. He was like, oh, we're already out here in Pennsylvania. There's a theme park, Dorney Park.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, let's go to the doctor. I got to check myself. He's like, you're fine. Put ice.
I
Him and
took him to the Dolly Park.
Loki's in the back. He checks my hand down. Loki was like, yeah, it's not broken. How do you know? You're not an x-ray machine. Like, how do you know? I've seen worse. All right. I'm
We ended up
swimming
going-
in this theme park. I was like, it might not be broken. It might be right. I might just be a punk about it. So we're swimming, going through my day. Now my hand is a balloon.
Yeah.
Finally get home to Brooklyn on Monday. And then my wife was like, yeah, you going to the doctor. Look at your hand. It looks like a boxing glove.
It looked like
Go
a
to the
boxing
doc-
glove.
Sure enough, guess what? Broke my hand. 6 different spots. Thanks, Joel.
Oh
I
man.
don't know.
He-
I wore a
he sent me
split.
He sent me the X-ray.
Yeah, I wore a freaking
I was gonna,
split.
I was
in my
gonna send them
hand.
tickets.
I'm like, all right,
to
I
Dolly
can't
Park.
wrestle for 6 weeks. He's like, what are you talking about? We're booked Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I can't wrestle. I have a cast.
No
Don't
more.
worry
No
about it.
more.
We'll just put black tape on it. We'll work around it. Yo, dude, I didn't stop wrestling. We wrestled all the dates. I showed up to every show. They were like, how you gonna do Spanish Fly? I got 2 arms. I'll do it with the other one. I don't know. It's
You
crazy
did. You did wrestle in a cast for a long time.
for a while.
Yeah. First of every wrestler lives on Dr. Google. Every fucking
Right.
wrestler. Anything that's happening to their body, they on Google trying to search what's happening. If they need surgery, it happens. So, I guess we get used to thinking that we know. So we'll strap here, and it works. I mean, I've seen many wrestlers go out there like beat up, and they carry on a match, and then they can't walk, but it's crazy. They carry
Like
out the match.
Samoa Joe is one of the craziest, Joe. So I watched Joe, and Joe
That's a
walks a
machine.
little, uh, but in the ring he moves like a feather.
Yeah,
Like, holy snap! Homicide kind of does the same thing.
yeah.
These are all
How much?
beat up,
How much like
but
Yoda?
yeah, he is.
You see him outside, he can't hardly move, walk, and then in the ring, he's like, he's amazing.
It's, it's crazy. I don't know what it is. It just turns on.
Look at all the shit we created. It's crazy. Like
Mm.
my brother created a power bomb to the knees. If you ever seen
Oh yeah.
Tommaso Ciampa,
Yeah.
we actually pressed him on it in Long Island before he got signed a long time ago. Yeah, because my brother made that up, right? And the Beach Breaker, that's a move I made up in 96, 97. Which Genke from Dragon's Gate, he started doing it, and when we went over there on tour, he was like, "I'm
He didn't do
sorry, I
it.
did it." Orange Cassidy, when I booked him on a couple of my shows in Rockaway, New York, and he told me that he uses my move also, which is the Beach Breaker.
Yeah.
Then the Stand Fly, of course, the washing machine. Have you ever seen that one?
Not
We
yet. I
put
don't think
we,
they do it
we
much.
no, no, I'm saying all these creations that we made. So I believe that the Dudleys will pull off a move like that. It's just me and Mark Briscoe the other day were thinking about what tag teams really created their own moves that are
Right.
like are gonna live forever. Sort of like Spanish Fly. Years from now, it's like a suplex now. You see it in every show. You see it in almost every show. You see it like 3-4 times. Spanish Fly,
Bro,
and that's
Yeah.
something
we were at the GCW
I
show.
didn't know. Yeah, we didn't know that was gonna happen. You know, we didn't know that we were gonna create something where a whole generation will use. You know, so now we're comparing what tag teams really brought it out. You know, like the
Mm.
Briscoe brothers, they are fucking amazing. But their finisher is a Doomsday Device, right?
Yeah.
Now, did that come from the Legion of Doom, the Doomsday Device?
I see. It's funny. So I grew up in the '80s, right? And that's
Yeah,
like that's
That
what
was
I
it.
remember. I
That's
remember them
it.
taking the enhancement guys, flipping them over, and
yeah. And then the Steiner brothers. You ever seen the electric chair Bulldog?
Yep.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
made they made that up, and then
yeah.
the Steiners also made up the electric chair Frankensteiner.
Right.
They really made that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
It's
trying to
called the
separate.
Frankensteiner.
Yeah, no, he
Like,
made up the Frank. No, well, he didn't make up the
He
Frankensteiner.
had
I
that
think it was somebody else.
suplex.
no,
He did
no,
a pile driver,
it's
too.
called the Frankensteiner. Like it's his name.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for real, he did it so nasty too.
It was a
'cause
Rana.
he
It
did
was a Mexican that created it. and he
Hurricane
named it
Rana and
Rana.
Frankenstein are two different things, right? Hurricane Rana is a running Hurricane Rana, right? The
Yeah.
Frankensteiner is a
Teach
jumping catch, spikes you, and this
Mhm.
Diesel 6'4".
Right.
When
Jack-
did you come up? How do you come up with these details?
This is facts because I'm a mark of Scott Steiner. He's freaking awesome.
And he
Running.
still does it to this day.
He's the man, right?
Mhm.
So he'll jump standing. I've done it a few times. I marked out to him because I did it. I marked 100 times. The jump, catch, and then go because it looks funky. Not the running. The running flow one is nice, but it's easy.
If you
The
watch the early Scott Steiner shit, he was doing so much crazy shit that I don't
Crazy.
think. Yeah, like he did like almost like the fallaway slam like Scott Hall, but he'd do a backflip sometimes. I saw him do where he
Yeah.
while he's still holding on to the
He's
guy.
a maniac, bro. How
Yeah.
about the suplex
That's
spike,
a pile driver.
bro? What?
Did he make that up too?
I think so.
That's the first time I ever saw that shit.
Steiner driver,
too.
bro. SSD. That guy's
One
a
thing
freaking innovator.
I
Because
believe so.
Japanese
That's right.
wrestling, Mexican wrestling is the flipping and the theatrics. That's what we loved about it. But Japanese is more of the clean,
Wrestling.
devastating wrestling moves that we didn't see in the States. Because you never seen anyone besides Dr. Death dumping people on their heads or doing German suplex, dragon suplex. The little tiger suplexes, tiger bombs. What is going on? Running power bomb from Liger. That's crazy.
So
man.
it goes back to what Joe was saying though, Jose. It goes back to now I started thinking about Benoit when he came from Japan and Owen Hart. That style that they came with is because I guess just without you even noticing, it just gets implanted in your head. That's what happened with us. We were watching so much Japanese wrestling, we didn't even understand it. We didn't. I hardly speak English, and I'm sitting here watching a whole full Japanese 2-hour show with my little brothers. But I guess subconsciously it goes into your brain, and then that's how we started snapping and doing shit that we wasn't seeing here with fucking Evan Courageous and them. You know what I mean? Doing that style in an American way, which is what it is now. Right,
Tag
you're
team
right,
wrestling
bro.
at home was crazy for us, bro. Like
Yeah.
we thought we were the Rockers. We used to love the Rockers. We used to love the high flying shit because we were smaller guys. So we're like, that's the smaller guys. I mean, they were 6'1", but that's the smaller guys. You know, Shawn Michaels and him. We used to love Legion of Doom was crazy, bro. Seeing these guys, they were superheroes. You know, Ultimate Warrior. But once we got put on to Japanese wrestling, we're like, who? WWE who?
Right.
WWF who? Misawa. We're talking about Kobashi. We're talking about freaking what's the guy with the yellow patch? I forget his name again. No teeth. Kawada. Freaking craziness, bro. Tenru that we met, that we wrestled, like our heroes. Choshu, that was my brother's one of his heroes. He wrestled him 1-on-1. This is madness. What's happening? It's not supposed to be happening, right? These are the freaking guys that shaped our careers for real. Because
I got to wrestle. Thank God. I mean, we wrestled everybody. I'm talking about everybody. You name it, we wrestled them. But in Japan, I got to wrestle Dick Togo, which is one of my idols. I got to wrestle Ricky Shoshu, which is insane. Me and my brother wrestled Kensuke Sasaki and Steve Madison from Florida. You ever heard of Steve Madison? Blue Eyes.
Name sounds familiar.
He's an indie guy for a while.
He was amazing. I mean, in Japan, he was like a superstar. The kid was 20 years old. He had like a Mike Verna body, and he was blonde, blue eyes. He was like a god over there, that kid. So they tagged him with like Kensuke Sasaki. He even won belts with them, titles over there in Japan. And and I got to wrestle, and of course Eddie Guerrero is one of our idols, and we got to open a relationship with Eddie Guerrero and Chavo and Hector and Chavo Classic. They became mentors kind of to us, you know. So I got to wrestle a lot of my idols.
Eddie Guerrero was one of the top ones. Like we became like friends. Like he wrote about us in his book.
Beginning.
Like
in the book.
You're writing about us in your book, bro. Like that's you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. That's cool. Eddie, bro. Eddie's the man. God bless his soul. But it turned out to be crazy like that, bro. Japan was really fun. Our last tour, I think, was Toriman, right? In Japan.
Our last tour was
Toriman. We toured with
Dragon's Gate.
Sorry, Dragon's Gate. We toured with Generico at the time. Pac. The Human Tornado. Jack Evans, right? We were all there, bro. We were all there.
Those must have been some insane shows,
bro. We were lighting the house up every
That's
day,
when Human Tornado broke Jack Evans' whole face.
Last day on tour. Broke his
whole cheekbone caved in.
He had to stay in Japan. He couldn't fly.
Yeah, surgery. He stayed in Japan for like 3 months.
It was bad.
That's wild.
Yeah, the shit you don't hear about, right? It's crazy. Human Tornado with a super kick. You had, Jack Evans.
Yeah.
The shit he was doing, and then all of a sudden, a super kick is what takes you out that day. What?
I remember that with RVD, like when he broke his leg. It was like on a baseball slide or something.
Oh, nasty. Liger broke his leg. Remember when Liger did the slide and broke his leg in half?
I broke my ankle doing an Asai Moonsault against the Briscoe brothers on the MCW match.
I did
Asai Moonsault. I hit the guardrail, and my ankle felt like my whole leg got swollen right away. That's one of the days that Jose picked up the slack, because as soon as I slid in the ring, we were supposed to do this double team, and he was like, "Get up," and I'm like, "I can't. I think I broke my ankle." That was it. I broke my ankle. They had to cut my boot out of my leg. Yeah. GCW. We're excited about GCW, man. GCW is doing freaking fantastic stuff. I think they're the next. They're the next up to me, you know. And
I feel like they already are. They're already that company.
Yeah, and to put us on our first match day against the Briscoe is it's really cool, you know. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to big time wrestling and wrestling the Briscoes and beating the Briscoes. There's no freaking way we're gonna lose that match and not wrestle the Hardy Boys. They gotta really drag us out of that ring, bro.
That
And
and
hopefully we-
NYWC Hall of Fame Psycho Circus is February 28th.
Yeah, the NYWC is at home. HWA, my brother is playing HWA to you guys. It was like right off the House of Hardcore closed, and then Mikey Woodbrack went with Paul Oria from ECW, the original Giant Killer.
Okay.
Yeah, he had the school in Long Island, and it was called HWA, a promotion. They used to do really, really well, and they're doing a Hall of Fame on the 28th of this month.
Dude, I'm bad at dates. I'm sorry.
26th, February 26th is the Hall of
There we
Fame.
go.
And they're putting all the HWA guys in there. Tony Nese is going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame because that's his school. He came from there. And me and my brothers, which is cool. And then we wrestling Audacity. These kids, they used to go to shows, the HWA shows about 20 years ago and watch me and my brother wrestle. And now they're going to wrestle us that day, which is a big deal for them in school.
Now that's awesome. Do you guys have anything else to promote?
Yeah.
Anything you want the guys to find you on?
Jose, expect the unexpected, Jose. That promotion is going to be the deal, bro.
ETU
You
Wrestling.
ever heard of it? ETU Wrestling?
Is that the one you guys shared today? It's going to be on IWTV, I want to say, in the next couple of weeks?
No. That's the promotion that brought us back.
Oh, okay.
We decided to go there for tons of reasons. You know, the publicity is it's a fresh company, and they allowed us to go in there and do what we do. You know, we had this whole Spot Monkey thing going on, and with my monkey, so everything's looking great. And they gave us the opportunity to do what we wanted to do, so we went there. And now that I see where they're going with everything, wait till they announce our match. It's gonna be crazy. It's crazy.
Wait till they announce everything to go. GCW, we're gonna wrestle the Briscoes. We're gonna beat the Briscoes, and then we're gonna go for the Hate Club. We want the tag team titles there. We want the Ring of Honor tag team titles. We want the Ring of Honor triple tag team titles. We want we're just gonna clean out. We're gonna clean house. Watch out.
Well, guys, that is the perfect place to end this interview. We want the S.A.Ts to get the titles that the industry said that they never needed. These guys are over, but they deserve all of the gold.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, boys, man. Y'all have us back after we win the belts.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
With my little brother Will. With my little brother Will. It'd be nice.
100%, guys. We would love to have you
Jose,
back.
I'm a big old school Scott Steiner mark too, man. So
I love Scott Steiner. That's one of my favorites, bro. I love that guy.
Yeah. Especially the old tag version when he was doing shit. Everybody's like, what?
Bro, they didn't even know what was going on. They're like, what is happening? I know where he got it from. He's doing that Japanese stuff. I'm telling you, bro. These are the guys that shaped us. I forget. So many great wrestlers, bro, that you sometimes forget. You think of old school wrestlers, bro. You know, these guys are fantastic. Even Ted DiBiase was the man.
Oh, yeah.
And people slept. I was going over spots with my brother the other day. His placement, his footing was freaking sick. Bro. I was like, yo, this guy was the man. That's why he was there, though. And, you know, at the time, most people loved the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan. Sure. All right, the over guys, right? But these are the guys we used to watch. For some reason, we were attracted to the Bret Harts and the Owen Harts in WWE because we started to learn about real wrestling. I'm not saying the other stuff is not real wrestling, but, you know, we're marks of the art.
Yeah, when you get to see real work rate in the ring, that's what gets your heart going as a wrestling fan.
I know. And it's hard once you start wrestling and become a wrestler and you know wrestling. It's hard to watch wrestling, bro. It really is, because now you find yourself, instead of enjoying it, you're critiquing it and you're that sucked. Oh, that sucked. Oh, he blew that. And you're like, dude, just enjoy it. Like when we went to the GCW show, it was cool because my favorite match in the whole night was Zack Ryder. I was marking out. I was like, I think Zack Ryder's my new favorite wrestler because, bro, we've seen all like they killed it. Most of the matches are crazy. They were awesome, but I just like the old school. I don't know, and we don't even do that type of shit. We do the high flying crazy shit. But
I don't do
just
that shit
love
no
that
more.
match.
Yeah.
See, I thought you were gonna say that Lucha team match was gonna be your match, but hearing Zack Ryder, that's interesting because that was just pure pro wrestling. Get the fans riled up. Go in there. Give them the
story behind it. Remember the nut shot where he had his wife give him the nut shot?
Yeah.
And you thought she
Joey
turned on her
goes up
husband
and then she
so
pushes
early
him
in the
and he
show.
takes the cup out.
nuts.
Genius.
Yeah. And the little Easter eggs too, like Hawkins coming out, spearing, which is a callback to when Edge did that one time.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's
did you
like,
notice his trunks?
He even wore the helmet. It's cool,
Yes.
man. They're really cool.
His
Yeah.
in-ring entrance was Mikey Whipwreck's dragon shirt. You notice that?
That's
No,
right.
I did not pick up on that.
Now
The
that
white
you
knee-
say that, yeah.
Bro, I love wrestling. His white knee pads represented Mikey's tights, and the blue knee pads the way Mikey used to wear them on his shins instead of the knees. So, but he actually wore knee pads because he wears the trunks. But zoom into it. Check into his Twitter, and the Mick Foley shirt, obviously.
Yeah.
It's all Easter eggs for marks like me.
Oh yeah, and his wife had the 460, which was like Francine used to wear that.
The whole
Yeah,
thing,
that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on his way. I feel like this is gonna be his decade.
I was such a Mark of Vader, bro. Like my
Yeah.
thing was always the power bombs. That's why I'm always doing power bombs and shit like that. So
It was
I'm
so
not
weird.
I'm not as big as Vader or Mike Awesome, but they became our friends. So I used to just like be like learning everything from these men. Everything they spoke about made sense of why they do these moves and how they do these moves. You know, Mikey Whipwreck told me and my brother real quick. We went to do a
We talk a lot.
CCW.
I'm sorry.
CCW show. CCW show. We had the Briscoes because me and Red, Jose couldn't make it to the first show, so Red took his spot. So it was me and Red versus Jay and Mark.
I couldn't
Briscoe.
wrestle. I was too young.
That was the first time. That was the first time. Hold up. That was the first time we ever met the Briscoes ever, and we clicked right on. The next show, it was me and Jose, and Mikey Whipwreck said to me, he was like, "Look, all you gotta do is that clothesline that Chetty's been getting you guys in the ring." And nothing else. Just do a hard clothesline and the fans will go crazy. I did that, bro, and it worked. And he changed my whole game set. I was like, everything that I'm gonna do that's powerful is gonna make sense at the time that I'm gonna do it, you know. And if I can do it, because sometimes guys ain't there.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyhow, brothers, have us back. I'll tell you the story of how I broke Big Togo next time. How I broke his leg.
I was a fan of pro wrestling, period, man. What kid down here in Texas that wasn't? I was a big fan. My grandmother, my grandfather, everybody. You know what? I don't think I've ever met anybody that wasn't a fan of professional wrestling when I was a kid. I didn't meet people that was fans of professional wrestling until I became an adult. And they would say, "Oh, I don't watch wrestling." Well, then what the hell are you telling me for?
Right.
You know I mean, because in my world where I grew up, everybody was in the professional. Everybody. So, yeah, that ain't had nothing to do with me getting into business though. But I've always been a fan of professional wrestling.
How much stuff in actual life mirrors pro wrestling? Like
Everything.
Right. Like
I used to tell people this all the time.
Yeah.
And so, I swear to God, because I've been in the radio for a while now, and I would always tell people everything that has anything to do with media or has anything to do with entertainment has stolen, has jacked all of their stuff from professional wrestling. Everything, even politics.
Yeah.
I said, if anybody saw Donald Trump run for office, that was pro wrestling 101.
1,000%, man.
The promos, the things that he brought up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Heel, babyface. I said, don't anybody get this? Oh, I'm crazy. Then at the end of everything, everybody, I was doing my podcast with Vince Russo today, and I was like, when are people going to start listening to me? I've been trying to tell you, I'm the black Nostradamus. They don't listen. I told you everything was going to happen there before it happened. And he had to agree. And he's like, well, I listen. I said, well, I just like saying that just to make myself feel right. I just like saying it. But yeah, I've been saying this for years.
Yeah.
Saying it for years. Everything. I said, look at reality shows. What is that?
Absolutely. Storylines, just all scripted. Yeah.
And very, very cheap to produce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually,
you got a big return.
Right.
And like I said, then people ask, is that real? Don't they ask the same thing with pro wrestling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look at the beefs between artists.
Right. Great point. Yeah.
Look at the beefs.
Yeah.
Oh, so and so is having a beef with so and so. Oh, the girl's in it. Oh, she said this about brother.
Mm-hmm.
Pro wrestling wrote the playbook for everything we see in life right now.
Yeah.
The Pope will be in on it in a little bit.
You know?
Two popes.
Two popes.
You know what I'm saying?
Sign it up.
You know what I'm saying? The Pope and the Ayatollah. A Pope and an Ayatollah be having a beef. Wait a minute. Come on. When you ask a question like that with me, because I've been saying this for years, way before, for years, maybe the last 10, 12 years, I've been saying, do anybody see how everything has turned into pro wrestling?
Yeah.
Nobody saw it, but you see it now.
Yeah. I think even on Joe Rogan's show a couple months ago, they were actually literally talking about kayfabe and kayfabe and politics. Yeah. I had to look it up, but I can send you a link. I did. There was actually he had somebody on there and they were talking about how kayfabe, and they were talking about from the pro wrestling industry. And I'm like, this is fucking insane, but it's so true. Like people are catching up. Yeah.
Oh man. They getting on everybody used to, I don't watch wrestling. Well, somebody, it's just like I explain to a lot of people when I do my podcast and people complain about WWE. Well, I wish it was like the Attitude Era. I can't like this, that, and the other. I said, brother, you got to realize something. Pro wrestling has even gone to another level. Pro wrestling is not wrestling anymore. It's a television show that just has a theme. The synopsis is pro wrestling. It's a TV show. They're not competing against wrestling. They competing against Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
They competing against Dynasty. They competing. They competing against other shows on network television. Not another wrestling show.
No.
So that's what I'm saying. That people don't get. So you will never get what you used to have long time. You'll never get it. If you ever notice, ain't but a few, like on SmackDown, ain't but a few wrestlers on the whole show. We don't need 50 guys. We need the same guys every week.
Yeah.
It is what it is, bro.
No, you're right, and especially WWE, and that's not on. They're the brand, right? So they're catering to so many different audiences that's why, especially if you're we'll call it a hardcore wrestling fan, for lack of a better word, you're not going to really find what you're looking for there.
Go find something else, baby. That's the evolution of pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is not. It's television now. It's not a subculture anymore. It is pop culture.
Right. Yeah, and I would think that's the thing, right? It's just that, you can find, and there's so many different ways to watch wrestling and different things now. Just look for something you like, right? So much negative energy out there, especially on social media. I don't understand. Like, you got nothing better to do than, tweet or say something bad about a television show.
Yeah, like if you go write one better since you don't like it.
Right.
Go write one better. Oh, I wish they do this. Well, keep wishing.
Yeah.
You really think they care about your negativity?
No.
Because for every generation, we get new fans every day. It's a child born every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they know that. They in the business of generating dollars, not generating yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday's gone, bro.
Your theme music in WCW, just for me as a fan personally, one of my favorite all-time music, the Harlem Heat. Did you guys have a say in that? And if not,
I'm no music producer, bro.
Yeah.
I come to work to wrestle. I'm not in, as far as producing music and this, that, and the other. I'm talent.
Okay.
In anything I do, I'm talent.
Yeah.
That's all I want to know about. Somebody comes and say, hey, you like this song? Yeah, it's cool. Okay, that's as much as I'm giving you.
Gotcha.
I like it. You like it? Okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm talent, brother. The last thing I'm worried about is what music sound like.
Sure, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
The checks in the mail.
I got to go out here and wrestle. I ain't sitting here listening to the best of, Don Fogelberg, I got to get in the ring, baby.
Let me ask you this, though. So, all right, pro wrestling, entertainment, obviously physical. I personally don't think it gets the respect from other things.
And who cares?
Okay, right. Yeah.
And who cares?
Yeah.
I could care less what the world says about professional wrestling. That's why I say Wrestling was always a subculture. We took care of ourselves. Now we want the adulation of other people and comparing ourselves to this, that, and the other. That ain't my world. That ain't my world. I can give two shits about what people think about this, that, and the other compared to something else. I don't. And I'm abrasive when I talk like this. But this is the world I come from. If I got the respect of my peers, that's all I give a shit about.
Gotcha.
Seriously. I like people to work.
Okay.
I like people to work, and we make this match look good. You know what I'm saying? To me, everything was about the psychology of the match. That's what it's about. The psychology of the match. Everything else will find its place. But the psychology of the match and getting the people to where we want them to be, that is what we really focused on more than anything. Because some people throw good punches, some people don't. At the end of the day, that ain't gonna make or break the match. The end of the day is the dance. End of the day is the dance. Did we get to where we supposed to be psychologically? That's what me and my brother used to always focus on. We had chemistry with anybody that got in the ring. We prided ourselves on making you look good. Because if you look good, we was gonna look good.
Right.
So we never worried about chemistry. Give us a couple of matches together, we'll have that down. Just like anything else. So we always had that kind of confidence within ourselves. We always had it. We would, we would look at a couple of things after one match. Okay, look at a few things this after another, that, just that and the other. Because it's hard to have it overnight. You know what I'm saying? And then a few more matches. Then okay, boom. Now I know this looks better for you guys, and this will look better for me. And me and my brother would always go and say, hey man, I'm gonna give you this big bump this way. Throw me this way. Blah blah blah. I think I get it. So we looked at that. It's about work. I don't give a shit about the chemistry because we'll get it.
Yeah.
It's just like when you hear Bill Belichick say, run it again. Run it again till you get it right. And if you get it right, boom, it's there. Some people are more fluent than others, but at the end of the day, that's how it goes.
So for you, I get the vibe. It's all about work ethic, right? Like it's just putting that work in and busting your ass, and you're gonna get it.
Well, it's a job.
Right. 1,000%. You get
my
paid.
Job.
Right.
My job is to do the best I can possibly do with what I got to work with. That's simple. I never tried to make professional wrestling into rocket science like you hear a lot of these other guys talking about.
Right,
it ain't fucking rocket science. It ain't fucking rocket science. It's like dancing, baby.
Yeah.
If you know how to dance, we can dance together. Why make it into rocket science? I ain't trying to build no fucking space shuttles. It is what it is. And like I said, wrestling was always a subculture. Now you have everybody spilling the beans about every little thing that ever happened in the business, and people really enjoy that. But you know something? You would never hear me telling personal stories about people that I know, ever. You might hear me tell some story about some funny stuff.
Right.
Like people have heard on some of my podcasts, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. But nothing that would out somebody for something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a funny situation, something that might not have been funny back in the day. And like the one story I told about John Tentner wanting to beat up Arn Anderson, and a lot of people didn't even, matter of fact, Arn Anderson didn't even know it.
Yeah.
He didn't even know it till like a couple of years ago when our Conrad asked him about it. And he was like, I had no idea that really went down. It went down because I was there. Me and my brother was there.
Right.
But we never talked about it to anybody because we were the only ones there that saw it.
Yeah.
So when I told the story about it, I really made it funny, and people really loved that story, man. That's the thing. You never see the guy angry. The guy's like the coolest guy in the world, and we seen him wanting to tear the building up that night in our trailer that we was in. Oh, my God. It was so funny. Matter of fact, I just went down to the AEW was here about a month or so ago, a little over a month ago, and I went down to the show, and me and Arn was talking about it. This first time we've seen each other a couple of times at some conventions, but we hadn't really talked about it. And he was like asking me, what was he so angry about, man? Because I didn't know. I'm like, man, I didn't know either. I was just sitting there hoping he don't tear the trailer off. I don't know. I just know what I saw, and I told it the way I saw it, man. It was like, so we were sitting there, me, him, and D. Malenko was sitting there trying to, figure out what was going on, because today, and John is not with us anymore, so it's kind of hard to have that. It was what it was, but man, what a funny situation. I was telling Ming's son a story about him one night. He don't even remember the story. And he was like, "What happened?" I said, "You don't remember you was there?" He was like, "No, I don't. We did a convention a couple of years back, right before COVID, like, and he was like, "No, I don't remember." I said, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to tell you the story." But I said, "I got to go." I was in a hurry, so I couldn't tell him the story. I said, "It was so funny, man." That I didn't get a chance to tell the story because I had to leave. I had to a podcast or something to go do, or something to go do. It was so funny, and I thought Ming was gonna say, "Oh man, don't tell him this one," blah blah blah. He was like, "I don't. What are you talking about? I don't remember." And I was like, "Oh man, I've never talked with him about it since." So he was drunk that night. So that's probably why he don't remember.
Okay.
Because I never talked with him. I never talked with him about it. I never talked with John Tenta about his. You know what I'm saying? I'm not that kind of guy.
Right.
I don't get in people's business and pry and ask questions about what they were going through. Hey, ain't my name Bennett and I ain't in it. That's how I was raised. I want to do my tour of duty and get out and land on my feet. That's why I never got involved in everybody else's. We were in San Francisco, and one of the guys that worked with the company had told us, "Man, I got a surprise for you guys when we get to San Francisco." We didn't know what he was talking about, though. Matter of fact, we didn't even remember him saying it. Then after we did a pay-per-view that night, and after we finished, we went back to the hotel, and I remember him coming to say, "Hey," before we left the building, he was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna come by you guys' room and y'all be ready by such and such a time, cause I still got that surprise for you guys." And I'm like, "Okay." And so me and my brother went back to the hotel, changed clothes, cleaned up, and then here come the guy from WCW and said, "You guys ready?" Said, "Yeah." We went down, got in a car, and we went to this hotel downtown San Francisco, and it's like, go in the hotel, ain't nobody in there. You go in the hotel, people walking around. This is hotel like a ghost town. I'm like, but you could tell it was a super expensive hotel because it had that early American look to it. You know how the San Francisco area is? Had that early American look to it. So we go get on the elevator and you go up to the very top, and you have to get a card out and put it in to go even further, so it was up there. Now me and my brother like, what the hell is going on here, Everything's so drab. I was, it's kind of like the damn Addams family or something. So we get off the elevator, we walk down the hallway. These hallways are not like the hallways in regular hotel because all the rooms are super big. So there's a door here and the next door would be way down there or something like that. So we go up to this one room and my boy knocks on the door and he said, "Hey man, I'm gonna be back in 30 minutes. And we're like, okay, then he left. Then me and my brother sitting there looking at each other like, okay. Then the door opens and it's Muhammad Ali.
Oh man.
Come on in. Then me and my brother look at each other like, Muhammad Ali, what the? So we go in and we just start chopping it up, man. We just start chopping it up and chopping it up with the champ, man.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, So it was a night to remember, brother. We took pictures and and Ali was doing magic tricks and talking about who would win out of us if we wrestled each other, and I would win. My brother like, "Oh, I would win," blah blah blah, And it was just a night to remember, man. Then we took pictures. Then our guy came back with a photographer, and we took pictures and stuff like that, and nobody else was in the place, just Muhammad Ali, my brother, and I.
Yeah.
And we chopped it up for about 30, 40 minutes, and it's a night I'll never forget. That's what tripped us out about Muhammad Ali.
Right.
That's what really tripped us out. We did not know that this, of all people, was a fan of ours. Now, me and King Mo are very cool. You know what I'm saying? Me and King Mo are very cool. We knew a lot of the African American athletes, because we met so many of them. We started meeting them. They would tell them, "Hey, man, we watch you, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, wow. Because it took me a long time to really realize the impact me and my brother was having on professional wrestling because I don't pay attention. I don't pay attention to stuff like that. Even my friends, even my personal friends would tell me, "Brother, you don't really realize how big you guys are." because I never brought professional wrestling home with me.
Right.
Never brought it home with me. Anybody would come, even my neighbors, don't come over my house talking about pro wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Now, the little kids in my neighborhood that was my daughter's age, those little kids, I kind of raised a whole bunch of them, you know what I'm saying? But, they would come by and ask for T-shirts and stuff like, hey, Stevie Ray, can I get an NWO T-shirt or something like that, But, it was never that in my neighborhood because while I had my house built, it was the first house in the sector of the neighborhood. And everybody knew whose house it was getting built. So they used my house as a selling point to the rest of the neighborhood. So I couldn't move in it for 3 or 4 months, something like that. So yeah, I see that house over there. We're doing that for pro wrestler Stevie Ray. You know what I'm saying? And people go, oh, he lives here. Yeah. And so it was kind of cool, But my neighborhood was very diverse. And that's why I told my real estate guy, find me a diverse neighborhood. I'm not like these athletes. I said, I'm an athlete. Every neighborhood you take me to ain't nobody but white folks. Not that I got anything against white folks, but I said I would rather live in a diverse neighborhood. I'm not the NFL guy that just got $1 million, contract, and this is where you got to live. I said, all those nice neighborhoods, they was cool, but I'm like, nothing against that, but I say, I want my daughter to grow up around a more diverse neighborhood. So the neighborhood that they found was willing to build me the house the way I wanted it built. Not that was on the blueprints. They changed a few things for me. And like I said, the neighborhood was black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Muslim, that was who I wanted to be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's who I wanted to be. And I made such good relationships. And so many of those kids used to come to my house and they would ghost card my DirecTV deal. Those little kids. If a fight coming on, they would ghost card it for me like I couldn't afford to pay for it. Is that something? I'm jacking the fight, right? You know what I'm saying? Is that something? Those little kids, little Asian kids, little Arabic kids, and Hispanic kids, white kids, black kids, and they'd be all in my living area, watching the fight with me, and they would ask me wrestling stuff, and I would give them, fatherly advice. And all those kids grew up to be, they're like all in their mid 20s now, mid to late 20s now. You know what I'm saying? And all of them grew up to be productive people in society, man. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, awesome, man. That's really cool.
And I'm proud of that, bro. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, they all would come and want to swim in my pool because I was the only house in the neighborhood with a swimming pool. Other than that, they got to go to the pool for the, for the subdivision. And they would, hey, Stevie, can we swim up here? And I'm like, I don't know, man. You guys, something happened to you guys. I'm going to be responsible for you. I said, you got to go ask your parents. You know what I'm saying? Your parents call me and tell me if it's cool. Y'all can do it. Because I'm like, I don't feel like watching you suckers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like being out here watching y'all, man.
You know
what I'm saying? I ain't your dad or nothing like that, But they was cool and I loved it because a lot of them went to school with my daughter. They was about her age.
Yeah.
And she used to really get pissed off if I let those kids swim in the pool, which was hers. Oh, she hated that. She'd get those stupid kids out of my swimming pool. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, God. So, like I said, I like that. Those guys, all those kids, man, grew up to be productive. Like the little Pakistani kids, they grew up, they opened up a phone store from my neighborhood. And me and their dad was really, really cool, man. And, so many of the parents used to come over the house and just talk. None of them talked about wrestling.
Right.
I used to love that. I've sold my house. I sold my house a couple of years ago and moved in a condo. I'm in a condo now because, I don't really like home living in it.
Dude,
it's just too much.
Preach no more. I get it.
Yeah. So, but I met so many people. Those kids grew up to be productive people in society, all races, all creeds, all religion. My cul-de-sac was one white lady, one black lady, one Hispanic couple, one Muslim couple, and one Korean couple. I mean, that was my cul-de-sac. In me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
And we all got along, and we all looked out for each other. Whenever I was out of town, I didn't have to worry about my crib. So, yeah, I'm proud of that.
That's awesome, man. That's bigger than wrestling. That's, that's life. Yeah.
Like I talk about on my podcast, but I tell people, I don't know what hate feels like. I don't know what it feels like. I know what love feels like. I know what dislike feel like for certain individuals, but on a daily basis, I don't know what hate feels like. And anybody that gets up, and I ask people all the time, please call my podcast or text me or send me a DM or comment or something. Please explain to me what hate feels like when you get up in the morning and you go to your bathroom and you take a piss and then you look in the mirror and the only thing you see is hate for others. Please explain to me what the fuck that feels like, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because we see so much of that in this country now. And I don't even think people even realize what they're doing. No country can be great by hating others. Because if you down, I'm down. When you up, I'm up. And if I can help lift you up, that's me. Because if you doing good, that means I'm doing good.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How can you feel comfortable with somebody doing bad and you like it?
Yeah. Makes no sense.
As a nation, people don't realize the uniqueness of this nation because they ain't never been nowhere. Well, I've been around the world a couple of times. And I know how special this nation can be. And I'm going to give my 2 cents. And I'm going to try my damnedest to give it all I can give to make it a better place.
I want to just back up for 1 second because you said something I'm really happy about. When we were doing this in the beginning, when we were talking about wrestling, you said, if they look good, we look good. Everybody looks good. Right. So if we're doing good, you're doing good. It's just, those are life lessons that can be learned in everything right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. See, man, I agree 1,000%. Like, there's no reason to be hating on people. Let's learn to love.
I understand it.
Yeah.
I don't
it's
understand it, bro.
Wasted energy.
I don't understand it, brother. It's something I ain't never been able to get grips on in my whole life. It's something that dwells within people, and I guess it's taught from a very young age.
Yeah.
And there's some of the stuff that me and Vince talk about on our podcast together, and we come at it strong and we come at it hard. And anybody knows me, I don't sugarcoat nothing.
You can tell.
I don't sugarcoat nothing. You don't ask me. Tony Schiavone gave me that name, Straight Shooting Stevie Ray, because one time he was like, man, every time somebody asks you something, you shoot straight with them. So that's where it came from. Tony Schiavone gave me that name, Straight Shooting Stevie Ray. I didn't realize it though. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
I didn't realize I was like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm happy-go-lucky, easy to get along with type guy. But brother, when I see somebody saying the wrong shit at the wrong time to the wrong people, hey brother, I'm gonna check you, bro. I'm gonna check you because like been in hotels and somebody talking to the girl behind the, you know what I'm saying, the wrestlers think they, hey, wait a minute, dog. Give her a minute, bro.
Yeah.
Where the fuck you going?
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hotel ain't going nowhere.
Right.
Ease the fuck up. That's just me.
Yeah. I think it's good, man. We need people like you to kind of keep people in check once in a while. we try to do it, but not everybody can be Stevie Ray.
You know what I'm saying? So those are some of the things. Like last night on my podcast, I had something that's been bothering me for a long time. So I usually, like you, talk about combat sports and things like that on the show, or movies, television.
Yeah.
Me and Jimmy, he's a comedian. Sometimes we talk about some of the old black exploitation movies.
Did you ever just think about doing comedy? I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to ask you that. Did you ever think about doing stand-up? Did you ever think about doing stand-up comedy or anything like that?
No, people tell me how funny I am sometimes, but I'm like, man, I don't see it. Like Vince today, he couldn't stop laughing when we was doing our podcast today. He's like, he couldn't stop laughing, man, because I come on the show and I do imitations.
Okay.
But he said all my imitations sound like the same guy. He was like, well, who was that you just because we were talking about Colin Powell. I was talking about Colin Powell that he just died. You know what I'm saying? And I started reenacting Colin Powell going to Vietnam. You know. And they sent him over there for this big massacre that went down in Vietnam, and he's supposed to be the guy to go over there and check it out and stuff like that. And he came back and he told the Joint Chiefs that, hey, everything, he didn't see nothing wrong, this, that, and the other. So the other guys go in and take pictures and all this stuff, all these massacres, beheadings that the United States was doing, you know. And then they come back and they put this in, because you remember back in those days, you could put stuff in magazines and stuff, and
Right.
you know, they stop you nowadays because the government tell you, no, don't do it, or your magazine gonna get shut down. But back in those days, you're talking about the late 60s, early 70s,
Right.
you could do stuff. That's why Nixon got brought down, you know, because of two guys at the newspaper. So I was making reference to that, you know. I think, hey, Colin Powell, we need to send you over to Vietnam. And then Colin Powell said, oh, I said, okay. I said, wait a minute. No, this is young Colin Powell. Okay. He's like, you don't know the old Colin. I said, wait a minute. I've been knowing the old Colin Powell. I didn't know the Colin Powell back in the 60s, you know.
Right.
So Colin Powell come back and go, well, everything looks okay to me, you know. And Vince is dying laughing, and say, well, then here come the news article could come out, you know, shows everything that Colin Powell never saw. And Colin like, hey, baby, I'm trying to get these stripes. Y'all don't even much get it, baby. I'm gonna get these stars, dog. You know what I'm saying? You got fucked up. So that's what we do on the show sometimes. We talk about serious stuff, but we'll keep it, you know what I'm saying? We don't want to make it so serious that people start to offend people and stuff like that, you know.
I think that's the best fucking promo we could have done. No, that's pretty good, man.
So I do a lot of that on the show, and Vince have people calling in, asking them, you know, they be sending comments like, you know, when I'm imitating somebody or trying to do it. Yeah, so it's not stand up, but
but there's a knack, right? Yeah, you can be. It's different to be funny in a group, right, and have fun. And that's an art form too, kicking it. But I guess stand up comedy. There's more.
But I just be wanting people to see how I see stuff in a serious way, but I make it funny.
Right.
I said, did you see Colin Powell at the United Nations? Oh, right here, you know, Saddam Hussein, he was trying to get yellow cake from one of the Afghans or stuff like that, and as you can see right here on this picture, well, Mr. Powell, that's not a picture, that's a drawing that some fifth grader could have done, you know. Yeah, but I'm Colin Powell, so you should take my word for it. You know what I'm saying?
I am.
He got weapons of mass destruction. Where are they? We didn't find them, but I'm quite sure they're there. So we should go attack that nation. Okay. All right then. You know. What the fuck? God damn.
Oh my God, dude. Man. I'm gonna be at work tomorrow morning. Now I'm gonna hear is I'm trying to get these stripes.
Trying to get these stars, dog. Y'all don't get it. You know. I didn't see nothing. You know. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Huh? That's funny to me.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. I'm on me too, obviously.
That stuff is funny to me, man. I'm like,
what kind of, you know what? We're gonna wrap up. Whatever. I want to ask you. You talking about comedy a little bit. What were some of your favorite comedians growing up?
Oh man, of course Richard Pryor.
Yep.
Jackie Mason, man.
Okay.
Jackie Mason was a funny dude. Rich Little.
Yeah.
Remember Rich Little did all the impressions and stuff like that. What what was his name? Foster Brooks. I don't know if you remember him, man.
Name sounds
When I
familiar.
was a kid, man, Foster Brooks, he used to act like he was drunk all the time. You know, all his whole skit was the drunk guy. You know, this guy could do the drunk guy better than anybody. I could look at this guy forever. I still pull up a lot of his stand up, you know what I'm saying, and some of the variety shows that he was on. That's a funny dude, man. He would actually make you think he was drunk. And people didn't know Foster Brooks was a world-class vocalist that people never knew.
Foster Brooks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that
World-class
out.
vocalist, man. You know, that's how good these guys were. And like people, I go to the comedy clubs here sometimes, every blue moon, and I hear comedy. But the comedy I grew up on was so broad because, you know, George Carlin, these guys had such a broad mindset that they educated you and did comedy at the same time. And you look at it and go, wow, that's brilliant. Brilliant. And I listen to some of these comedics today and some of the comedy clubs, and it's like the same guy. It's like the same guy telling the same jokes. No disrespect or nothing like that. But I just came from a different era when a comedian, you know, was bigger than a comedian. He was a real, you know, when other comedians came out to watch and go, I got to see this guy. You know what I'm saying? Because he got something, man. You know what I'm saying? What goes on in the mind of people like that? It just freaks me out, man.
Yeah, and have that kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, like the observational skills, like in that moment to take all that in. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make it funny. He can be talking about some of the serious stuff in the world and make it funny.
Yeah.
That's why I see this thing with Dave Chappelle, because me and Vince talked about that today, and you know, this council culture trying to. And
did you see his recent special?
I seen the part where we're talking about the transgender.
Okay.
I didn't see the whole thing though.
Okay, I just watched most of it yesterday, but
what do you
think? It's interesting. I liked it. I loved it. I thought that again, comedy's subjective, right?
Yeah.
It's art, and I didn't personally find anything. And this isn't to my own word. We literally had a trans person on the other day for an interview. Did great. Got good reviews, and at the same time, I can say I watched this. I didn't personally find what he was saying insulting. It's comedy. And actually, he's telling a story about a person he knew who was trans, who killed themselves.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And if you listen to it at the end, too, it's like he's taking a serious moment. You can kind of see moments where emotionally, like he's playing it off really good, but he also turns it into comedy at the same time, which is a fucking art form and a half.
But that's my point, man. Yeah. That's not easy.
No, to take things that really bother you deep down inside and you're going to turn it into comedy. Yeah, I just don't think we live in an age right now where people can grasp that. We're too it's part of it's a little territorial, I think, and tribal, and also we're just used to, I don't know. There's a certain culture where if you don't completely agree with everything I'm about to say, well, then you must be on this side. Where
that's the thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray.
No compromise.
Right.
No compromise.
Yeah.
You gotta come to a medium. This, like you said, territorial, tribal mentality that people got in this country today, it just boggles my mind, bro. It boggles my mind. Oh my God. Like I said, it does. But, you know, like I tell people, better you than me, baby.
Just trying to get these stripes. I said I did love that, man. I'm gonna use that all day.
Hey man, Colin, y'all gotta realize Colin from New York, baby. Hey, I gotta get this paper. I gotta get this paper, dog. I'm trying to get up there on the Joint Chiefs. You know, I ain't trying to be down here with these jabronis for the rest of my life. Right. Driving a tank and a Jeep, you know what I'm saying? Hey, baby, I'm gonna be in that limo. You better dig it. Yeah, I'm telling this, I'm gonna be running this mug. You know.
Is there anything else you want to promote, Stevie? I want to.
No, that's pretty much about it. That's pretty much everything I'm into right now.
Awesome, man. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing the show. We appreciate you, and
Thank you.
we'll love to have you back some other time, man. You were great.
Hey, I appreciate it, man.
When I was a kid, I was lucky enough to I'm from Winnipeg. I live in Winnipeg. I grew up in Winnipeg. In the 90s, we had an independent company called IWA. It was run by Tony Candello, who's a really famous wrestling promoter who does the Northern Death tours and things like that. He had local TV, so I was lucky enough to be able to watch guys like Chris Jericho and Lance Storm and Don Callis and Bad News Allen, and they were just like around Winnipeg, just hanging out at like community centers and halls and just working independent shows. So I had a lot of great stuff. Ultimo Dragon was here for a while.
Oh,
So like just hanging out in Winnipeg. And I was lucky enough to grow up during that era. And when I got into wrestling a few years later, those guys were obviously all doing bigger things, but everybody who worked with them was still hanging out and you know, in the scene. So I got to learn from some really great guys, some really great veterans when I got in. But as far as being a fan, like I mentioned, those names, you know, Jericho, Storm, Don Callis, Rick Martel was here too. But like it was always early 90s WWF, like people my age, you know, mid 30s. It was like Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Crush, even to a point.
Yeah.
Crush was my guy for a while.
we all have that guy, I think, that maybe was like near the top of the card, but you know, I think that's why I became a huge Bret Hart fan, because he was like in that middle, but somehow he ended up being world champion. And you feel like if that happens, you feel like that's your guy, like you're part of that team, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guy for sure. Was Crush for a little while.
So now who helped with the training when you broke in?
Okay, so the first time I trained was in 2001, and I trained with a guy named Robbie Royce. He's a local guy. I'm actually, you know, I one of the first independent matches I saw in person was him and Steve Corino for the NWA North American Championship. And Carino dropped the belt in Winnipeg only to win the NWA World Belt like a week later in Florida. So he was here to do a bit of business, and he was born in Winnipeg, raised here a bit. So it was like his huge homecoming. But Royce was the guy I first got in there with. I was 13 in 2001, and it was the first time I got in a ring. And then about a year later, I started training again with Hotshot Johnny Devine from Stampede Wrestling. From TNA, former X Division champion, and he ended up being like my primary trainer. He ended up teaching me everything that I needed to know once I got into wrestling. So he's the guy that I really credit, and you know, still hold a relationship to this day because he's such a good guy and was such a good role model for me.
He was part of that Team Canada initially too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
yeah, with Scott D'Amore, and there's a lot of guys that were in that. Yeah, a lot of talented people came from, like, I mean, you know, obviously everybody knows, like, you know, the guys like Brett and Rick Martel and Edge, but like there's really just so many talented wrestlers that came through Canada. And like you said too, like even kind of being around, it sounds like there was an interesting blend of people that would come there through the independents. Like you'd get those guys like Rick Martel still in the business too.
Yeah. Rick Martel came in like in between, you know, he left WWF in like 93. So like 94, 95, 96, he was working independent. So a lot of that was in Manitoba. And then he made that WCW comeback in like 98. And he was actually supposed to take Don Callis with him to WCW. And it just never happened. And then obviously Don Callis went on to do other stuff, ECW and now AEW. But no, they were supposed to go together. And so we had this incredible collection of talent here during the 1990s that, like, if you look at the all-time roster of guys that were here, it's incredible. It's a who's who of like world champions, Hall of Famers, and they were just working small shows around here and in the surrounding towns. So there's a lot of great stuff going on here. And like, you know, as we move forward, there's other guys, like, you know, the people that are always named from Winnipeg are Roddy Piper, Chris Jericho, and Kenny Omega, and Callis too. You know, those are the three big guys. So we have a lot of great talent from here.
Specifically from Winnipeg too.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you forgive me, I think you were just saying in the beginning, were you born in Manitoba too?
Yeah, I was born here.
Born and raised.
Born and raised here, yeah. Started working here. Did got some work elsewhere in Canada and the U.S. and eventually went to Japan, but I'm sure we'll get to that. But
yeah, what's it like growing up in Manitoba? I mean, we know so much Canadian wrestlers from there, but what's the city like? What's everything like over there?
The city, like, here's the thing: if you're a wrestler, the city sucks because we're a town of about 800,000 people. So like we're not small, but we're not big. And the closest major city to us is Minneapolis, which is 7.5 hours away. And like the closest other city to us, like bigger city, is Regina, Saskatchewan, which is 6 hours away. So we're cut off from everything. So anybody that gets out of Winnipeg, you gotta be a hell of a talent to get out of Winnipeg. But growing up here, man, like all the stereotypes that you hear is that it's freezing cold, it's -40, we're in the tundra. That's true. That's how it is here. The stereotypes are true, but at the same time, there's a very unique sense of community here because we are so cut off from everybody else. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and a lot of people understand that. So when somebody makes it out of Winnipeg, regardless if it's wrestling or there's a lot of NHL players from here. There's been Major League Baseball player from here. Rock stars. Neil Young came from here. Neil Young grew up here for a bit. So anytime there's anybody attached to Winnipeg, everybody's so happy and so proud for them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remind me of when I was younger, I had some friends, still friends today. They grew up from this little town, Voluntown, in Connecticut, and they would always make fun of each other, joking about each other from Voluntown, because it was just, it was just kind of like that place. And I remember if other people made fun of them for that, they all like kind of joined together, like, no, that's a thing we do. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's only us that you can make fun of. Yeah.
Now you ended up, we'll break away from a little bit. You do you're a radio host, New Country 104.7. How did you end up doing that?
So I started a podcast. I have a friend who's a filmmaker, and he had a bunch of recording equipment, and he thought I had a bunch of great stories. So he said, man, like, just sit down, do a podcast, see if you like it, try it out. That was 2015. I did it for a few years. I ended up getting an offer from a national television network to host a podcast for them because they were kind of branched off into like online stuff. They have a streaming service and a music platform. So I went on their music platform and did music for 2 seasons, which ended up being like 24, 25 episodes. And then from that, I got a call from a radio station that is province-wide. So like, if you're in Manitoba geographically is an enormous place. Like you could probably fit like 4 New Englands in Manitoba. It's a very big place. Like you hear the stories of like Edge and Christian talking about going on the death tours and driving for 24 hours. It's true. Like it takes you a long time to get across Manitoba. So I got hired by that station. So they have transmitters from the U.S. border all the way up to Churchill, Manitoba, which is at the very top where like the polar bears are and shit. So like once you get up there, you only got like a few forms of entertainment. So I ended up doing afternoons on that station for probably about 2 years. And then the same company owns just a Winnipeg exclusive station, which is like kind of like more of a mainstream country music station. And I do the morning show on there. Currently, I'm off right now. I've got other projects going on, so I've taken a few months off. But regularly, I'm up at like 4 a.m. doing the show at 6 till 10, and then that's pretty much my whole day.
Now, okay, so like with the radio, so you're taking time off. So I was going to ask you, is that a vehicle you can use to help promote your wrestling too, or is it just kind of they're kept kind of separate?
No, I keep them separate. Every so often, like I'll mention, I think it's pretty well known that if you listen to a radio station long enough, you kind of develop a relationship or understand where people come from. So I've mentioned that I was a wrestler for a long time, but no, I never bring it up daily. It's not something that I bring up regularly. It's something that I mention every so often.
The producer of the show, Joe, he wanted me to ask you this question about broadcasting advice. And so as I think about that, like one thing that pops in my head is I think it's so easy, and I wanted your thought on it sometimes to rely on things you do as like a crutch. like, for a topic when you're interviewing people, it's like, well, I used to do this or I do this. And it's like, sometimes it's fun, you're connecting with somebody, but sometimes it's like, man, we got reoccurring listeners, and how often do they want to hear me spiel this same story? And so it's like, you ever feel like that? Like, like you don't want to lean into something, or is there?
The very early on when I was doing podcasts, because like my own podcast, I did like 150 episodes, and they were all interviews. So it was a big learning curve on understanding that an interview has nothing to do with me. I'm just the person kind of steering the ship. If I have something applicable to add, I would. But it's all about learning. Like if I catch something interesting or important that somebody has said during their answer, I hook on that and I wait for them to finish, and then I follow up with something like that. But as far as the only time that I would bring up like wrestling is if I was interviewing a wrestler and we had something in common, or we had wrestled each other maybe. But as far as like the actual like continuously bringing up myself, I try and steer away from that. And it's not because it's wrong. It's just that people listen to me every day.
Right.
So that when somebody else new comes on, like I got to give them everything the new person has in a span of like 3 to 5 minutes. So I just got to like put the seat out there and get the hell out of the way, and let them get their stuff, get in what they need to get in.
And this is actually kind of thinks of the next question too, because I saw like you in one of your matches. I know Lance Storm was like a referee and stuff like that, and I'm sure there's been other situations where, like for me personally, it's kind of funny. We interviewed like Ross and Marshall Von Erich. Well, I grew up on Texas wrestling, and so I'm kind of like in my head, I'm a fan now, because I'm interviewing, even though it's their kids. It's like, oh, this takes me back. I get it. Do you have those moments? Like obviously there's a Lance Storm in the ring, or other times too where you're just like, holy, what am I doing? I'm here. Is it one of those moments in your career where you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this?
Yeah, there's been a few of those. One time, I a few times actually, but the first time I wrestled Bushwhacker Luke, and when like I heard the Bushwhacker music come on and I saw him like doing this on the way to the ring, I got goosebumps, and I'm getting them right now as I'm talking, because like I've done some pretty cool shit, but like when it comes to like bringing me in as a fan, that's the kind of stuff that hooked me. Like Lance Storm was cool, but like I didn't wrestle him. But like when I got in there with Bushwhacker Luke, or I got in there with like the New Age Outlaws or Demolition, that's the stuff that's like, dude, like this is really cool. And there's this weird culture in wrestling where like you're not supposed to mark out for yourself, but like that shit's cool, man. Like once you get to tell your kids you get to wrestle like your favorite wrestlers, like there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, and it's a certain level of success that's not defined by money, I think, right? Like, I mean, you're getting to interact and perform as a peer with these people you grew up watching and who entertained you, and they were like, hero-like, growing up. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, hanging out in like kindergarten, grade 1, and like walking around the playground doing this and shit. And then, whatever it was, 20 years later, I'm in there and I'm wrestling. I wrestled him a few times on a northern Manitoba tour where we were going like way up north. I did a few matches with him, and like just to hang out with him and hear stories about like the sheep herders and the bushwhackers and what it's like to wrestle in New Zealand. It's pretty cool. It's a really cool thing to look back on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sometimes too, I think fans, especially nowadays, and this isn't to be critical, but I think everybody's just so about the moves and everything that happens in between the ropes. But I'm sure you can speak for firsthand experience, like a guy like Bushwhacker Luke. I mean, the knowledge that he just has on probably just how to like interact with the crowd and doing the right things at the right time. Like it must be a huge learning curve that
Dude, I learned more in 2 matches with Bushwhacker Luke than I learned in like 5 years wrestling just guys like me. Like there was things he was telling me in there that there was a point in the match where I was going up to the top and he hit the ropes and I did the nut deal in the corner. I fell on it, and he was like telling me as he's selling and I'm selling, like telling me, he's like, okay, now get down and do this and come this way. And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, I get it. It's like, I understand like why I'm supposed to be doing this. And I was really bad for like, this is a little inside baseball, but taking too much time to do certain things. And like people always say, like, slow it down is what you hear in wrestling.
Yeah.
But sometimes I would slow it down a little too much and kind of like lose the people like very early on in my career, because that's part of the learning curve that you have to go around. But he managed to reel me in a few times to the point where like it clicked. Like you mentioned, there's a wealth of knowledge in the ring with you for 10 minutes. Like, take that 10 minutes and learn everything you can.
Yeah. It's incredible. I know. I just listened to a podcast with William Regal, and he was talking about that was the thing like Bryan Danielson did. Like, he would just seek him out afterwards and hang out for like hours and hours. Now that's a tremendous opportunity to have something like that for, the whole day and beyond. But like you said, you learn so much in just 5-10 minutes of what.
Yeah. But it's different if somebody's sitting there and like talking to you in the locker room, but when you're in front of a crowd and like you can hear the crowd and the crowd's responding and it's you that they're responding to, like things set in pretty quickly when you understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Now, so you had talked about Japan and stuff before. You've been to Japan then? Yeah. Well, tell us a bit about Japan and then maybe some other places you got to tour.
Oh God. So Japan was a messy story. I don't know if you did any reading into that, but
not. So
okay. I got booked for Big Japan Pro Wrestling right before they did their CZW relationship part 2. Like they had CZW, WXW, and Big Japan all together doing tours together. So like Walter was there, Tommy End, who's Malachi Black, Black G's from CCW. They were all there like weeks after me, but I was the last person to go before that. And I had some personal problems, as you hear of in wrestling, and I ended up having a little bit of an issue on the plane over, where I took too many things and I got real sick and I ended up in a hospital. So my tour was cut very short. I had one match and I came home because, I'd had a drug overdose is what had happened. So my one tour of Japan, my one big shot, I walked away half willingly, half unwillingly. And it didn't put a bad taste in my mouth because it was my own choices and I was dealing with a lot in my personal life. But my one big shot in Japan, I kind of fumbled. And, it's all on me. Nobody else did it. But I got to go there and live my dream, because that was always the number one, was to go to Japan and try and make myself a living over there, like a Steve Corino was doing a few years earlier, or, like Hansen. And actually a guy I'm friends with now, like now that he's out of the business for a number of years, is Rick Patterson, who is, the Leatherface from IWA Japan. He lives like 10 minutes from me. So, we talk not even about wrestling, just about like the weather, what's going on in the city, news, things like that. But I wanted to do something like he was doing, where just making a living internationally. And I had the shot, but I fumbled it and, nothing ever came up of it, which, is sad. But at the same time, it is what it is. It led me to broadcasting, and now I have, radio show and a TV show and all this other kind of stuff.
You said something that I'm curious, just because, like you said earlier, somebody says something interesting, grab onto it. For me personally, I see you take accountability for your own actions and stuff like that. How important is that for people in recovery to go, okay, this is on me and I need to get better?
So in like 2011 is when I went, right before, like I mentioned, that whole CTW thing started up again. And I got sober in 2013. So it's been like 9 years now, but it took a few years to really understand like what was going on. That yes, it was like I knew off the hop it was my fault, but I didn't understand why, because there was there were some things that happened growing up that were traumatic, and I didn't deal with them. And once I got to be an adult and get into real life, and I had all this trauma that was unresolved, I didn't know how to do life. So as I'm in, a few years away from it now, I understand that yes, it's my fault, but also like there was a lot of things that happened alongside of it that I wasn't in control of. Yeah. So the accountability thing is 100% on me, but also I understand that, it's my fault, but what happened to me was not my fault.
I understand what you're saying completely.
Yeah.
I'll just stay like personally. Like I was in a marriage for years, and I was not like a physically abusive, but I was a yeller. Like when I would argue, I would yell and I'd get yelled at. And it took me. I didn't know that like that was strange. And once I started looking into it and realizing, oh, I grew up in that environment. Not to say anything bad about them; they were great people, but they grew up in worse environments. And it's just like breaking that cycle where you yell. And I'm like, why did I do that? Like, oh, this is what I grew up, and this is what I picked up on. And you don't know that shit. Even though at the end of the day, like that's my fault. I had to discover why that's happening. And I'm sure much like you did, you have to like, why did this happen? Why am right?
Yeah. It's exactly the same thing. It's coming from the environment that I came from. There was a lot of things that I didn't get when I was a child or a teenager or, a young adult that really fucked me in the end. Sorry for swearing, but
I thought you can swear on the show, but go ahead.
Yeah, like when I got to Japan and I'd had that experience, it was like I literally worked from the time I first saw Japanese wrestling, which was on IWA Wrestling in Winnipeg. Chris Jericho would bring back his tapes and like they would air one Japanese match every Saturday. And I would watch him and Jado and him and Gato and him versus Rey Mysterio from like WAR. And I worked from that time in like whatever it was, 1995 up until 2011 to get my shot. I got my shot and then I fumbled it. So like to look back on it now and understand that, yes, it's my fault, but there was a whole bigger picture of things
right
that I wasn't aware of really until I got a little bit older. And mind you, I was 23 years old when I went to Japan. I was a very young, and I remember being in the locker room and Men's Teo, who was my tag partner for my one match over there, looked at me. He's like, I have a son who's 23. He's like, you're too young to be here. Because he spoke a little bit of English. He's like, you're too young. He's like, you should be at home. You should be at home, like learning and doing something. But it is what it is, man.
Yeah. There's I heard a martial arts coach say this you try not to look at it like winning and losing, win or learn. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly. That's the way I look at it now.
It's good. And did you travel anywhere else? Any like European, Mexico, anything like that? Or
no. I trained. I did like a few days like tryout with New Japan USA in like 2006. The first time they tried to get into the US when they had the Inoki Dojo in Los Angeles. I went down there with like an incredible group of guys. Like Shinsuke Nakamura was there, Minoru Tanaka, Carl Anderson was there. Like guys from Ring of Honor at the time, like Fast Eddie, if you remember Fast Eddie from early ROH, he was there as well. Hannibal, the Hannibal TV guy.
Yeah.
So there was a good group of guys that were down there for a few days training. It was kind of like an open gym. They invited like whoever to come down, and I ended up driving down because I had some family there. I ended up staying with my family and training there for a few days. So that was a really cool experience. I got to work around with like Rocky Romero and Durango Kid who were training there. But as far as like doing any international stuff, I would just do like northern US indies, a lot of Canada stuff, like out to British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario. But like most of it was in Manitoba because like I mentioned, I was 23 when I went to Japan, but I was also 23 when I had my first child. So so there was a lot of conflicted feelings, like do I continue pursuing or do I stay at home and be a dad kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the real life of it, right? I was gonna ask, so now you had, again, there's an interesting group of wrestlers you're working with in the time period. Did you have wrestlers? You hear like what a different environment is, like the locker rooms and stuff nowadays, in the sense that people do generally, for the most part, seems like work together, whereas a lot of the old timers some days, obviously you had good interactions, but would like sometimes make you, like pay your dues or earn it, or sometimes even take liberties. Did you A, have people try to take liberties with you, and B, did you have to kind of learn how to handle yourself to a certain degree too?
Yeah, I had my first match when I was 15, so I was very young. I was in grade 10. So what is that in American? That's like a sophomore. Yeah. But yeah, there was a few guys. But like the sad thing is, it was like guys who would never accomplished anything or were never going to accomplish anything, that tried to take liberties. But I did get to work with a lot of great guys who had been around the world, like Kerry Brown, for one of them, who was a Stampede Wrestling guy, and feuded with like Brett and Davey and Dynamite and all those guys in the 80s. He was still around doing shows when I broke in, and I actually tell this story because it's kind of funny. He threw the lightest punch that I had ever felt, but he also threw the stiffest kick that I ever felt at the same time too. We were working on a spot outside the ring in the crowd, and he told me beforehand, he's like, hey, when we're out in the crowd and the people, like, I'm going to work a little tighter because, there's no daylight out there. In the ring, you can kind of hide it. But he wound up and he kicked me so hard, he left like bootlaces across my chest. I like looked down because I was like wearing a shirt during this spot because we were on the outside, and I pulled my shirt off and I had bootlaces up here. But also at the same time, like we did something else like a few months earlier, and he threw this like incredible working punch. And I wasn't even sure if I should sell it or register it because I wasn't sure if it hit me. But like guys like that, I got to work with. Kerry Brown, who is a legend. I got to work with Eddie Watts, who is a guy who worked Puerto Rico, a guy who worked Japan with Rick Patterson in IWA Japan and Wing, and did a lot of stuff in Puerto Rico. I remember working like a northern Manitoba town with him like 2 weeks after he had worked Triple Mania in Mexico. And he was just telling me about like working with La Parca at Triple Mania, and I'm like, dude, we're like 4 hours north of Winnipeg now. Like, why are you here? Why aren't you making money down there? But I got to work with a lot of great guys, a lot of good veterans. And then like nowadays, as weird as it is, like, because it's been 20 years since my first match. I'm 34. You know what I mean? It's like I guess I'm the veteran, but at the same time, I'm the same age as a lot of guys who are, 5, 6, 7 years in. So it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic.
Why did you ultimately walk away for the first time? Was it because you were a dad? Was it other stuff too? Are there opportunities coming up? Is it just a combination of things?
Yeah, it was just not having fun anymore. You always read wrestling biographies and hear shoot interviews that when somebody told me that Terry Funk said, when you lose the feeling when you're standing behind the curtain and your music is on and you feel like you have to piss because you got the nervous piss and you lose that piss feeling, it's time to walk away. And I had lost that nervous piss feeling that I had heard about. So when that went away, I was just like, there's nothing left. I wrestled my heroes and went to Japan. I never made any money, but I had fun. I got to do what I wanted to do.
And you're back now. Did you feel like ultimately too, maybe you needed just to do something different, recharge the batteries, and maybe,
it was kind of like a coincidence thing. I had a friend of mine who is starting a new company here in Winnipeg, and we just got to talking. I was like, dude, if you ever need me or whatever, I would happy to help out. And then that turned into further conversation, and now like, I'm fully on the card and possibly in a very important matchup on the card against the guy that I got in the ring with for the very first time, like 21 years ago, Robbie Royce, who beat Steve Corino for the NWA North American title. Now we're going to be wrestling in 6 weeks from now or whatever it is from today. So, coming back, I have my first match this Thursday and I'm nervous. I'm still very overweight compared to what I used to be, but I left the business and I put on some weight, but I've dropped like 30 pounds. I'm hopeful that I won't blow up and die in the middle of the ring on Thursday, but I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Yeah. Now, that's what I was kind of thinking too. I know just as, being 45, being an adult and not even doing wrestling, but just doing day-to-day things like going, okay, I need to stretch a little more if I'm going to do this, or I got to do that. I'd imagine your routine in your head getting back into this is you're like, okay, I need to do this, right? Like you probably have a different mindset, I'd imagine.
I have a lot of ointment ready. Just say that I have a lot of ointment ready. I popped my shoulder out wrestling in like 2014, which is one of the last little swings I did through, doing a tour. I broke my back. I totally skipped over that. I don't know why I didn't bring that up. I took a backdrop actually we were talking before we started recording at like this big ballroom venue that I was working at, like Williston, North Dakota. And I just took a backdrop and I felt something pop in my back and I couldn't move my legs for a minute. And I thought something was wrong. And then that was pretty much it.
I was going to ask you about injuries too. So that's okay.
Yeah. Well, that was one of them.
Yeah.
But I ended up healing pretty well. And I'm a little worried about that, but it wasn't like a severe break. It was like a little tiny fracture that, doctors kept an eye on. So, coming back, I have a lot of ointment ready. I'm a little bit worried. I'm going to be doing a lot of stretching. I do yoga every day, so I'm hoping that helps. And like regular yoga, not DDP yoga. So I'm hoping that helps a little bit. And I'm just hoping that I don't embarrass myself on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I know like we interview some comedians and stuff sometimes, and it always talks about going out like and kind of getting their chops ready. Like you hear like comedians say that right before they go like and do a big special. They'll go out to like their clubs. Like you got to get your legs underneath you, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And like the crazy part is that I haven't disclosed this to anybody yet, but I haven't been in a ring to train yet.
Okay.
So the first time I get into a ring to take a bump is going to be during the match. So it's going to be a little bit maybe worrisome once I get in there and I take the first bump. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hey, sometimes you just go on the fly and then you see how it's going to be.
I'm hoping so. There's some great guys on the card, like really popular independent names. So I'm hoping that like I don't stink the joint out. So we'll see.
Any of these shows you got coming up, are they going to be available anywhere like on IWTV, Fight, anything?
I think this one on Thursday will be IWTV, but I don't think it's live. I think it'll be up like following the event. So it's called Time Bomb Pro. It's in Fargo, North Dakota, which is in the upper Midwest, obviously. So not a whole lot of wrestling going on out there, but the stuff they do have is good and it's real good. So I'm hoping that I can add to that on Thursday. But the later shows, I believe, will be up somewhere sometime. 3D Pro Wrestling in Winnipeg here, which is having their debut event on May 26th. It'll be up somewhere. I don't know where yet. I don't know how. I can't really announce it yet, but it will be somewhere.
That's all right. Well, and for anyone listening to this interview, this will be out in audio too. We'll put some links out and stuff too. And
absolutely.
So, is there anything else you got coming up? Did you want to promote wrestling or anything? You can.
I got this TV thing going. I'm hosting a television program for a national TV network up here in Canada called the Aboriginal People's Television Network. I'm half Native American, is what you would call it in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So I host a TV show about Indigenous language.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be airing later on this year. I got a 9-episode first season, and hopefully, if that goes well, we'll be back for round 2.
I know this interests me. I'm sorry, as I was curious. You said we would call it in the States like half Native American. What would you say? I'm just curious.
First Nations. That's what we call it in Canada. Because like the tribes that were here were the first countries per se, and each had their own like territory of living. So the First Nations just means the first countries, the first people, the first inhabitants.
Okay, it's interesting. Yeah, I me personally, I find this stuff interesting. The older I get to like learn, I don't know about you, but as I get old, I find myself far more. I was always a pretty like accepting person, but I'm more like I want to know more about other stuff now. Like I'm
right.
Yeah.
I find that stuff too. I find that stuff too as I get older. I'm wanting to learn more about other people and where they live, how they live. Like I got a lot of friends out on the East Coast in New England that I talk to on a daily basis. So I'm always learning about like Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and like what's going on and what's the rich parts and what's the poor parts. And there's so many schools out there. It seems like New England is like has a university every 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
So I'm always learning, man. I'm always trying to learn.
Absolutely, that's life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, hey, Stefan, I wish you luck. In these next few weeks. Definitely Thursday. Like I said, we're recording this on a Tuesday. If anyone did this, and definitely Thursday. I'm wishing you big luck. That's your first time, obviously back in a while. I hope the whole thing goes well, man. You're a great guy, and maybe after maybe after I don't know how many matches you got set up right now, but maybe when you get a little break in, we can kind of talk and just see how everything's going, man.
Absolutely. It's my first match in 4 years, but before that there was a 3-year break, so technically this is like my first in 7 years. So I'm very nervous, but we're gonna have a good time, and hopefully I'll be in good enough shape to come back on the show.
Absolutely, and that's you want that nervous energy at least too, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, all right, Sevan, thank you so much for doing this episode. And is there one other thing you want to do? I'm so sorry. Social media, anything you want to tell people where they can find you? Let them know.
Instagram is a good place. That's usually where I'm hanging out. Stefan, Stefan X Richard Richard. You can hit me up. I post a lot of stuff about radio, TV, my personal stuff, and then especially wrestling as well now that things are picking back up. So follow me over there. I got a Pro Wrestling Tee store attached on the link in the bio. So hit me up.
All right. Thank you, man. And thank you, fans, for tuning in. Appreciate you.